Attention, armchair quarterbacks and shower thought GMs. It's time for this week's episode of SportsBall with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley.
It's such a shame that the Big 12 hasn't voted, or excuse me, Big 10 hasn't voted yet by the time of us doing this recording.
I know we could have been like breaking news.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like we can break the news anyway by telling people that they're totally going to vote to play.
I'd say we go for it then.
Well, then we'll just do it. Screw
Let's do it. Yeah.
Welcome back for another episode of SportsBall. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by Tampa Bay superfan. It's Mike Maharrey. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, the Lightning have the opportunity to close it out.
Yep.
Now, what did I say in my message when they went down 1-0 the other night?
Well, when you sent me a message saying I'm done with hockey, switching back to football, and I immediately pulled up the Lightning score because I was thinking, oh, it's 3-0 Islanders. It was 2-2.
I know. Well, no, it was 2-1.
When I looked, it was 2-2.
No, they didn't score 2.
Well, then it was 1-1 when I looked.
It might have been 1-1.
It was tied when I looked, and I thought, oh, it's tied. Therefore, the Lightning are out of the playoffs.
Right. So what happened was I turned the channel when the Lightning were playing awful. The Islanders went up 1-0. I turned the channel like within literally 20 seconds of game time from when I turned the channel. The Lightning scored, and then they scored again 23 seconds later. So if I just held out for like one more minute, they would have been up 2-1.
It seems to me, you know, we've discussed this before, that if you would just quit watching the Lightning, they'd win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
So I actually prepared a quick video for everybody. Monday night, having a doubleheader on Monday night, like I wasn't opposed. It's opening weekend. I wanted to watch more football. So I was perfectly excited to watch a couple of games. However, when you have a Monday night doubleheader, you end up having your late game. The final game of the opening week, I mean, they were still playing when it's like midnight.
Right.
A lot of people went to bed. So let me show everybody at home what you missed. If you missed the exciting duel between the Denver Broncos and Tennessee Titans, this is what you missed. You missed Yoink.
Yoink.
That's Stephen Gostkowski, by the way, former kicker of the New England Patriots. He also moved on from the Belichick regime. There's another Yoink. It's almost as if Belichick knows what he's doing when he lets people go.
Yeah, right?
I mean, Yoink.
Oh.
Yeah, that's number 3. And then to take a full touchdown lead, yoink, and the extra point. That's 4 missed kicks. But don't you worry, because it's not the only one that matters is the last one, Mike Maharrey.
That's right.
20 seconds left, 4th and 1, right down the middle.
Nice.
And that kick would have been good from 20 further yards out. So, I mean, there you go. So, a little bit of redemption for Stephen Gostkowski. I don't know. Because of that, one might presume that the Titans will not be jumping on the field kicker carousel just yet. With that said, here's an interesting stat for you. Gostkowski went into that game as the 5th most accurate kicker all time in the NFL, and he left that game as the 9th most accurate kicker all time in the NFL. Yes.
That's a bad day at work right there.
That is a bad day at work.
Can you imagine anything more stressful than being a kicker?
No, I cannot.
Maybe being a goalie in a hockey game, but I don't even think that.
Yeah. I mean, a goalie has, I guess, a more active role in the game because you're on the ice the whole time. Right. I mean, even if you're not deflecting shots, the puck is moving towards your side of the ice. You're getting rebounds. You're doing things behind the net. The kicker just sits, and it's one of those things where they have to stay warm, right? Because they're sitting on the sideline for long stretches of time. It's theoretically possible you don't take the field until the last second of the game. And then everyone boos you out of the stadium.
Right. And you lose your job.
Which we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. I'm going to do a quick recap of week 1 in the NFL and just some takeaways of the games that you and I had watched. Seahawks 38, Falcons 25. How's this for Russell Wilson? You know I'm a big Russell Wilson fan. He's my current pick for NFL MVP. 31 of 35 for 322 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. But I kind of want to do a little bit of this recap of something positive and something negative. The problem is that he also led the team in rushing on 3 carries for 29 yards. The Seahawks will only ever go as far as Russell Wilson can take them. You want to talk about a guy that deserves every cent he's paid, Russell Wilson.
That's a bad running stat there for your running game.
Yes, it is. Moving on, Bills 27, Jets 17. Josh Allen, much improved, 33 of 46 for 312 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Against the Jets.
Yes. So A, wouldn't it be great if you could play the Jets every week? And
Right.
B, while Josh Allen was much improved, hearkening back to just a few seconds ago, Josh Allen also led them with 14 carries, 57 yards, and a touchdown. That's not a bad day on the ground for the QB, but where's the rest of the team?
Yeah.
Bears 27, Lions 23. The only thing you need to know about this game, other than wide receiver Swift dropping a wide open touchdown throw in the final seconds that would have won the Lions the game, is that the Lions shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. They were leading 20-3 in the fourth quarter, gave up 3 touchdowns to the Bears, still had a chance to win with a walk-off touchdown. This is what you need to know about the Lions. They led this game in every statistical category. The leading passer, rusher, and receiver all play for the Lions, and they lost.
Ooh.
Green Bay Packers 43, Vikings 34. That actually is a closer score line than it really was. The Green Bay was really in complete control of this game. The Vikings scored some points in garbage time. Aaron Rodgers was 32 of 44, 364 yards, and 4 touchdowns. A pretty good day at the office. Aaron Rodgers said that this is the first time in years that his arm hasn't hurt. Which is good news if you're a Packers fan. The only thing I come back with is that, again, maybe it's just the past wacky league we live in, but he had 44 attempts in a game that they won fairly easily. Can no one run the ball in this league?
Yeah, right. It's interesting. The Packers are suddenly, from what I'm hearing, the kind of trendy pick. Everybody's jumping on that Packers bandwagon. I think maybe it's a good football team, but I think maybe that's a little bit of an overreaction Monday there.
It possibly is. I think it boils down to that they're in the NFC North. You win your division, you go to the playoffs. Most people thought the Packers and Vikings were the top to bottom most talented teams, and the Packers just dealt with the Vikings easily. Yeah. Whereas the trendy preseason pick was the Lions, and they just lost a heartbreaker to the Bears, who everyone thinks was going to finish last place.
Let's just be honest. The Lions should never be any kind of pick, trendy or otherwise.
Not. Well, a lot of people were thinking that this could be Matthew Stafford's year, and
but it's always something in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean the problem, and keep in mind, by the way, Matthew Stafford had an okay day. He didn't have a great day, but he wasn't the reason why they didn't win. That's ultimately the issue. Patriots 21, Dolphins 11. How about this? So Ryan Fitzpatrick strikes again. 3 interceptions in a 10-point loss to the Patriots. That was a 1-possession game until late. Cam Newton leads rushers, 15 carries, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Honestly, obviously Fitzpatrick had a terrible day, which that's just Jekyll and Hyde for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Right.
For Cam
that might
Newton,
be his one for the year. Next year he'll be 450 yards.
Yeah. Just wait until they're playing your Bucks, then he'll throw for 500 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah. The thing about Cam Newton is that he really had a pretty pedestrian day, with the exception of being able to show off the wheels. I don't think the Patriots are going to go very far with a quarterback that can't throw for much more than 100 and 150 yards. However, it's strange. Like, you could actually saw Bill Belichick smile a couple of times when his quarterback didn't just take a knee because there was a rusher near him.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, Cam Newton looked healthy.
Yeah,
he did. Washington football team 27, Eagles 17. Do you want to talk about, so the Eagles were in the running for LP Team of the Week. They had a 17-7 lead at halftime, and that was with Wentz playing bad. And so you think, well, if the Eagles have that bad of a half and have a comfortable lead, this game's over. Riverboat Ron Rivera has to go get an IV. He's not able to address the team at halftime. You're thinking, man, the Redskins are physically and figuratively falling apart, until somehow Philadelphia just can't get out of their own way. Washington scores 13 points in the fourth quarter. Mike Maharrey, the Washington football team, is the only NFC East team with a win.
Yeah, I would not have picked that. If you were going to ask me on Saturday, no, yes, I would have said no.
The Las Vegas Raiders 34, Panthers 30. This was actually one of the better games of the week. I think there was 7 lead changes in this game, a lot of back and forth. Teddy Bridgewater for Carolina played pretty good, 22 of 34 for 270 and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 23 carries for 96 and 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Robbie Anderson, 6 receptions, 115 and a touchdown. So this harkens back to Lions-Bears. Mike Maharrey, every statistical leader, plays for Carolina, and they lost.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on. Probably our favorite game of the week. The Law Jags 27, Colts 20. The Colts had 455 yards of offense, never punted, and lost.
Yeah. Minshew Mania is back.
Minshew Mania played a near perfect game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who didn't play a near perfect game is Philip Rivers.
I know.
This going into our preseason preview, you and I were wondering, I wonder who this year's Philip Rivers will be. And the answer is Philip Rivers.
Philip Rivers.
Ravens 38, Browns 6. Yes.
Yeah.
Chargers 16, Bengals 13. This was this week's pillow fight.
Yeah.
Leave it up to the Bengals to have a chip shot field goal from the 10 and miss it. Not only just miss it, but miss it by about an entire field goal distance away for the Chargers to go on to win that game 16-13. Tyrod Taylor got the start for the Chargers at quarterback. Played terrible, but won, which has kind of been Tyrod Taylor's MO in the NFL, which is he's not good enough to be a starter, but then he accidentally wins a game and you feel compelled to leave him in.
Right.
Saints 34, Buccaneers 23.
Yeah.
So this was a game where after the first quarter, you're feeling like, hey, the Bucs look like they might be onto something with starting off.
The first drive looked very, very promising.
Looked very good. So Tom Brady, it's not that Tom Brady had a terrible day. It was the turnovers, right?
Yeah.
The stat line minus the picks looks like a medium to above average day. I mean, a great day for a geriatric under center. But the fact of the matter is, how's this for a stat? Tom Brady has now become the first quarterback since 2015 to have 3 straight games with a pick 6. That's something that Jameis Winston never achieved.
I was going to say Jameis Winston could do that.
You
have to wonder what Jameis is thinking on the sidelines.
I'm going to take a quick break right here. We have a few more games. I'm going to give you my first hypothetical pseudo lightning round question of the week. Mike Maharrey, do you think Jameis Winston feels a little validated today?
I'm going to go with probably yes.
Not to say that he should, but saying that he does. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, a lot of the commentary that I've seen around the Bucs, fans, friends, some of the pundits, the word is maybe Jameis Winston wasn't the problem after all.
Well, he was a problem.
Well,
but
yeah,
we don't
certainly.
know.
When you throw 30 picks and give up over 100 points, that's a problem.
But we don't know if he was the problem. And we don't necessarily, I mean, it's obviously this is the overreaction edition of the episode, so it's hard to say that you know a lot after 1 week. All we know is that Bruce Arians may not actually be the greatest offensive coach that the world has ever seen. And if you do believe that Tom Brady still has some gas in the tank, then maybe quarterback wasn't the problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brady looked like a quarterback that was a little bit lost in the offense.
He did look a little bit lost, and Coach Arians actually threw his quarterback under the bus a little bit. He did. He came out and said that Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady in practice. He's going to have to execute on Sundays, and that the mistakes were his.
Yeah.
There was an interesting take that someone had given is that Brady's going to have a few adjustments, and he's a veteran player. You expect those adjustments to be made. But in terms of coaching and in terms of relationships, Brady has spent his whole career being coached very hard, but privately.
Right.
Now he's being coached loosely, but criticized publicly.
Yeah.
That's
Arians' MO. That's how Arians works.
On the other side, one more quick hypothetical before we move on. On the Saints side of the ball, I'm going to talk a little bit about this game because you and I both watched this game.
Right.
The Saints are clearly all in this year. This is a team that spent a lot of money, signed everybody because they want to win a Super Bowl. They think they have the team to win a Super Bowl right now, and they're motivated to because we're very likely at the end of the Drew Brees era in New Orleans. Let me ask you this. You watched that game. Now, the Saints won the game. Largely, the Saints' defense kind of really started clicking in the second half. And largely, gadget plays by Taysom Hill, a lot of big runs after the catch by people like Alvin Kamara, a couple of big touchdowns by him. Is Drew Brees the one holding the Saints back from postseason success now?
Ooh. That's a tough one. I mean, you can make that argument. I don't know that I'm willing to make that argument right this minute, but if you look at the stat lines, that was not a top tier offensive performance. Now, granted, the Bucs defense played pretty well, but Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at Breeze last year, and it did look like there wasn't a lot left in the tank, and there's not a lot left in that arm. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not willing. I really like Drew Brees, and I think he's obviously one of the greats. I'm reluctant to pitch him off to the side, but I mean, you could make that argument. It's difficult to refute it.
At the end of the day, the Saints won the game, right?
Right.
But it was a home opener. They did win time of possession, and Tampa Bay had 3 turnovers to the Saints' 0 turnovers. Mike Maharrey, I'll leave you with this one. Drew Brees finished the game 18 of 30 for 160 yards.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not just pedestrian. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad in the pass wacky NFL. It's definitely bad for Drew Brees. 49ers lose their opener to the Cardinals 24-20.
I was surprised by this one.
So you might remember I was the one saying that on the one hand the 49ers might have a return trip to the Super Bowl in the horizon because it's very much the same team, and there's a lot of historical precedent for teams bringing back their talent with the chip on their shoulder and making their way back to a championship game. However, they lose their opener to the Arizona Cardinals. Jimmy Garoppolo, 19 of 33. He does get 259 yards and a couple touchdowns. He takes multiple just back-breaking sacks. Absolutely back-breaking sacks. In a game where San Francisco had no turnovers. Of course, the Cardinals only had the one. But penalties, back-breaking sacks by Garoppolo. You want to talk about a guy that might be holding back the rest of the team? I think Jimmy G's not the answer. I think a lot of, he took a lot of heat at the end of last season because a lot of people said, the only reason the 49ers didn't win the Super Bowl is because Jimmy G couldn't close it out. Right. He had a double-digit lead going late into the second half and couldn't keep his team on the field. Mm-hmm. You look at the other side of that. Kyler Murray, starting his sophomore year, 26 of 40, 230, a touchdown and a pick. I mean, it was an okay day, not an amazing day. 13 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown. But more importantly than that, it was pointed out, Kyler Murray just showed the rest of the NFL a clinic on how to have a dual-threat quarterback and how to keep him healthy. Yeah. On his 13 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown, he never took a bad hit. Every single stoppage was a slide or a run out of bounds on 91 yards and a touchdown. That's a heck of a day, and to go into San Francisco and get the win. I know that.
That's a good defense.
Yes,
ostensibly they were last year.
Yes, they were a very good defense. I mean, they did hold the Cardinals to 24. In the modern NFL, that's not a bad outing.
Right.
Tell you what, the Cardinals look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you had Sunday Night Football. Who had the prediction that the Cowboys would lose an ugly game, and then questions would abound if they made the right picks on personnel and particularly on the sidelines? Who made that prediction, Mike Maharrey?
I think if I remember correctly, it was my SportsBall co-host Alan Mosley that made that prediction.
Well, it's because we've seen this happen before. So lots of questions surrounding Mike McCarthy hire. You know me, I'm always one that I don't believe in the coaching carousel. If a guy just got fired for failure, then you shouldn't be rewarding him by hiring him on your team. People thought this was the guy that could come in and quote-unquote fix the offense, help to develop Dak Prescott. And by the way, Dak Prescott didn't have a terrible game, but he kind of had a Dak Prescott game, which is rack up some yardage, but he's not able to keep the offense on the field. They're not able to convert when it matters. Yes, there was a ridiculously blown offensive pass interference call at the end of the game that really ultimately cost the Cowboys the win, but they shouldn't have been in that position. With the talent on their roster, and even with some of the numbers they were putting up in the first half and in the third quarter, this shouldn't have been an issue. The Rams didn't. The Rams looked like a bad team and beat the Cowboys. Yeah. The only thing I can say is that the McCarthy era should have never started. I'll gladly go on the record saying that the McCarthy should go. I don't care if it's week 1. He should have never been hired, so it's easy for me to say that he should go. Finally, getting to the end. Of course, we had Monday Night Football. Steelers 26, Giants 16. Daniel Jones at times looked really good, and at times he looked really yikes, lobbing a duck for an interception. By the way, just two takeaways from that game. One, Big Ben looked pretty sharp.
I was getting ready to say, yeah, Big Ben looked pretty good.
21 of 32, 229 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, not the most accurate at times, but he had a lot of zip. You want to talk about a guy who doesn't have a noodle arm. Big Ben doesn't have a noodle arm.
No.
Drew Brees might have lost a touch. Big Ben doesn't look like he's lost a touch. 3 touchdowns. Your boy, Benny Snell, 19 carries, 113 yards. How about that?
How about that? You wonder how many more carries he's got after the 7,463 he had at the University of Kentucky.
On the other side, Daniel Jones, 26 of 41, 279s, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Obviously, the 2 picks are backbreaking. But again, I can't help but point out, he also led the Giants in rushing on 4 carries of 22 yards. Saquon Barkley, nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
What? Can nobody run the football in the NFL?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a team that even when the opposing team run blitzes every down and puts 10 men in the box, I'll tell you a team that somehow still figures out a way to run, Derek. It's Derrick Henry running for the Tennessee Titans. We showed the kicks from earlier, 16 to 14. How about this, Mike Maharrey? Your boy Derrick Henry from ULE. He ran 31 times for 116 yards. 116 yards isn't a huge stat line, and 31 carries is probably not the type of mileage you want to be putting on your back starting from the very beginning of the season. But how about this? Derrick Henry going in, what is this? Is this his 4th season now in the NFL?
Or is it?
Or 5th? I don't know. But 4th or 5th season in the NFL. Did you know that the Titans are still undefeated when Henry rushes for 100 or more yards?
How about that? Well, that's why they keep handing him the ball. They're like, if we could just get to 100.
I mean, it kind of sounds like a meme. You think to yourself, well, just because you feed them the ball 50 times doesn't mean you win. But the fact of the matter is they win. They just keep winning. 116 yards. What's funny is that the Broncos totally sold out to not let Henry win the Titans the game. The Titans, he only got over 100 yards because he got 31 carries. And yet, in a game where if you watch the tape, you think to yourself, man, Henry never really got going that game. And now he's still on pace for 1,800 yards. Right. I wish my back could just not get going to 1,800 yards.
Me too.
On the other side of that, Drew Lock did look pretty sharp. I do genuinely think he's the future of the Broncos franchise. 22 of 33, 216 and a touchdown. I mean, he didn't exactly blow everybody out, but he didn't do enough to win the game. But he did do enough to say that he probably is the future of the franchise. Yeah. At the end of the day, the Titans are a lot better team. If the Titans hadn't missed 8,000 field goals, this would not have been a close game. By the way, the Titans also racked up a ton of yardage and just didn't score a lot of points. On top of missed field goals, they had the terrible ejection early in the game, lots of penalties that knocked them out of first down yardage. They had multiple false starts and delay of games, which when there's no one in the stands, that's
right. That's confounding to me.
That's
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers jumped off. So, I mean, everybody in the stadium knew that Drew Brees was going to do a hard count and try to pull him off sides.
Yeah.
There's no sound in the dome.
Yeah.
And he jumps off sides.
So I'll ask you this quick one before we move on with our other segments. Do you have any just outrageous over or underreaction takeaways from week 1?
Oh gosh, I probably should, but well, I think I'll tell you what, here in Jacksonville, there's an awful lot of optimism about the Jacksonville Jaguars winning a game. I still don't think they have much of a team there, and they beat the Colts, who we both agreed in our preseason probably wasn't going to be what was advertised either. So I think there's a little overreaction on the plus side over there. I think there's a little bit of doom and gloom in Tampa Bay. I don't think the Bucs were as bad as it looks. I think they're going to improve through this season. I still don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be better than what we saw on the field. The other day. So yeah, those are two that I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, I just want to say I really enjoyed week 1. I really enjoyed that football's back. I really enjoyed week 1. Yeah, there was some stuff going on. And yes, there wasn't really fans. The places that did have fans didn't have many. A lot of places didn't have fans at all. Right. Probably my biggest...
I'll tell you this. Even a few fans made a huge difference.
It did, yes.
And just even in terms of watching the game, it just feels... It was so weird watching a football game in an empty Superdome.
Yeah,
absolutely. That really bothered me. It really took away from my viewing experience.
Yeah, it took away from my viewing experience as well. Probably my biggest pet peeve was the fake crowd noise, but it's several seconds delayed from when a real crowd would do it.
Especially the boos.
Yes. Speaking of that, we're gonna do puck to the head after this. So I hope you got your stick ready.
I'm ready.
But before we do that, we're gonna do announcer say.
Oh, I've got a couple for you.
This is probably one of our favorite segments,
Yes.
but that's hard to do in the off season, obviously.
It is, because they're not saying shit.
Well, if you've got a couple, go ahead and hit me with a announcer say.
Well, okay, Iowa lost to Louisiana 31-7, one of the big upsets in college football over the weekend. Booger McFarland, talking about the game, said, quote, "I think the Cyclones have one of the most fundamentally sound defenses in the Big 12. Dude, they just gave up 31 points to Louisiana."
31 points to a Sun Belt team. By the way, I'm not ragging on them. Louisiana is now ranked.
Right.
What did I say they were ranked? I don't even have it pulled up. Was it 19th or 16th?
19, I think you said 19.
19th. That's deserved.
Yeah.
It's deserved. So good for them. You want to talk about announcer say. So from Thursday Night Football, Al Michaels says, "So we've got 51 points, 31-20. Long pause. What do you think I'm thinking? Chris Collinsworth, I'm thinking you're thinking somebody cares. You're a caring kind of guy." Al Michaels,
What?
Very caring. I have no idea what any of that was supposed to mean. My only guess is that they were talking about the over-under, but maybe they're not supposed to talk about gambling on that network. I'm not sure, but that was retarded.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chris Collinsworth from the same game, the thing with J.J. Watt is he goes backdoor on you.
Oh, no, nobody wants that.
Mark Schlereth, Seattle versus Atlanta. Everyone says let Russ cook. How about we just let him simmer? You can get a great meal in a crock pot without burning the kitchen down.
Oh, I actually kind of like that one.
Ian Eagle, Cleveland and Baltimore. I speak Spanish and profanity.
Huh?
Okay, Ian. Chicago versus Detroit. Kenny Albert says the Lions had a big lead and then squandered it. That's been their recent history. Miami, New England. Our boy Tony Romo says momentum is shifting. You can hear it in the crowd noise, Jim. Tampa Bay versus New Orleans. The announcer video of the week. By the way, did you see the clip of Troy Aikman getting ready to walk off screen because he doesn't have good lighting, only to be told, "Hey, the camera's on. You got to get back in your chair."
Yes.
Between the plexiglass in between the speakers in the announcer's booth to Troy Aikman throwing the stage manager under the bus for not having his light turned on. The Tampa Bay versus New Orleans game was a good game, but Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were a bit yikes.
Yeah.
Chris Spielman, Arizona versus San Francisco, says, "From one KK to the next KKK." He said that. Yes.
You're not supposed to say that when we're ending racism in the NFL, dude.
I know. And finally, Chris Fowler, Pittsburgh versus New York Giants. Imagine being Daniel Jones and having TJ Watt getting off in your face.
Oh, no. Don't imagine that.
I feel like this is going to get our episode banned from social media, but I'm just repeating what they said on national television.
I've got one more for you.
Right.
This was, I can't remember who the announcer was, but he was talking about the Indianapolis Colts offensive line. He said, "I don't think there's anything that this offensive line can't do."
Wow.
So can they play defense?
Can they end racism?
Speaking of ending racism, did you know that the Duke Blue Devils have accomplished this?
You told me.
I did. They changed their logo on their helmets from black to white. White to black.
My answer to you is going to be the same one I say every time, which is, how selfish of them to wait until now to do that.
Exactly.
They could have done this years ago. With all that said...
I won't repeat what my wife said when I told her because it's not appropriate for a rated PG show.
Cynthia, come on.
Yeah.
Time for a puck to the head.
I have one. And we're going to go back to your Tennessee Titans.
Uh-oh.
First round pick, Isaiah Wilson. Offensive lineman, came out of the University of Georgia. Big expectations, expected to compete for playing time, except dude got busted for DUI.
No.
Yeah. I get it. People drink. I don't have a problem with people drinking, but you have the potential to be a star in the NFL. Don't F it up by getting in your car drunk, dude.
Yeah.
And this guy's had some other problems apparently as well. He had a run-in with the Tennessee State University campus police while attending an off-campus gathering. So future NFL star still going to college parties. And from what I heard, he actually was trying to jump out of a second-story window to avoid the cops.
Tried to jump off a balcony to avoid the cops. I do remember that one.
And if you're 6'6", 350 pounds, it might not be a good idea to jump off a second floor down.
They'll find you in the crater you leave on the ground.
Yes.
So the only thing I was going to say to your boy Isaiah there is, that these guys are in a position and make the kind of money. And we know for a fact the NFL and the teams actually have all of these different support groups and whatnot.
Right.
You're supposed to have an entourage that takes care of these things for you. Not an entourage that pushes you into college parties when you're a grown-ass man worth millions of dollars. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. So, Isaiah, you get a puck to the head. But apparently, Coach Fable, he's not planning on kicking him off the team or anything. So
imagine that.
He said he's a good guy that made a mistake. So
imagine that the top pick doesn't get kicked off the team. I wonder if the seventh rounder would have.
Right, exactly. Or if he was a kicker who just missed 3 field goals.
Speaking of a disappointment, it's time for the LP Team of the Week.
Oh, yay!
It's not just a team, it's an LP Conference of the Week. You mentioned it earlier. The Big 12, mega yikes in their opening round of football, going back to college football. Louisiana with the 31-14 upset of Iowa State. Now, I'll give it to people that a lot of people said that could be a win for Louisiana, but Iowa State was a ranked major conference team. By the way, Arkansas State 35-31 over Kansas State. Now, that was one that a lot of people didn't have on the radar. Now, Texas Tech does come away with the win, but it was a 2-point last-second victory over Houston Baptist.
Ooh.
Yes, you read that right. And finally, Coastal Carolina upset Kansas 12-7 last year, just to prove it was no fluke. 38-23 over Kansas this year. It was 28.
I watched a little bit of that game, and it wasn't that close.
It wasn't that close. That's a lot of garbage points by Kansas. It was 38-3, or it was 28-3 at halftime.
Yes.
So, by the way, just for people keeping up at home, the Sun Belt went 3-0 against the Big 12 in Week 1.
I think Sunbelt's on its way to Power 5. What do you think?
Sunbelt on its way to Power 5, and breaking news, Big 12 suspends the rest of the season due to coronavirus. But it's time for us to get our solemn faces on. It's time for In Memoriam. We'll remember a player, a team, a coach, whoever, whose sporting life was cut tragically short. Mike, who are you remembering this week?
Well, I'm remembering with great joy, I mean sadness, the Las Vegas Golden Knights of the National Hockey League. They had a chance to make it to their second Stanley Cup final in 3 years of existence, which just annoys the fire out of me, but that's a whole different, that's a different episode of SportsBall. But they played their final game yesterday. They were actually up 2-0 on the Dallas Stars and then managed to lose 3-2 in overtime. So they're going to the golf course, and the world is a better place.
I'm remembering former Cleveland Browns kicker, Austin Seibert. Austin Seibert gets the boot out of Cleveland. Now, he did miss a field goal and an extra point in their opening 38-6 loss at Baltimore. Yes. For people doing the math at home, 4 points wouldn't make them win. Just saying. But I do want to kind of say I do kind of feel bad for Seibert. We've already talked about how kicking is a hard job in the NFL. Yep. This is Austin Seibert's stat line. This is his second year in the NFL. He was drafted by Cleveland. Mm-hmm. He had a decent year last year. Now, yes, he missed a few extra points last year, but you know what? A lot of people have been missing extra points since the rule changed to back it up. Mm-hmm. He's an 83.3% field goal kicker. It was probably the extra point that did him in, but when you consider how bad the field goal kicking carousel has been for so many teams, think Detroit, think Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going through 3, 4, 5 kickers in a season is not where you want to be. The Browns elect to jump on the carousel in Week 1. So not only did they give up a kicker that I don't think that his NFL story is done, but furthermore, The guy that they signed to replace him is Cody Parkey. Now, you might remember Cody Parkey being the infamous Chicago Bears kicker who, now, he genuinely did lose the Bears games. Austin Seibert didn't lose that game. Just saying. With all that said, it is time for our first weekly pick'em of the new year. We used to keep up with this saying it was the week whatever pick'em going all the way back to the beginning, and frankly I lost count.
Yeah.
So we're just going to start over. It's our weekly pick'em. We're going to start in college football. Number 17 Miami Hurricanes at number 18 Louisville Cardinals. Mike, it's the only ranked game of college football this week. Who do you have?
I think this has the potential of being a pretty good close game.
Could be.
My gut tells me I should go with Louisville because Miami's just been up and down for the last couple of years, and I don't see anything to think that anything should be different. But I'm going to pick with my heart because I just can't pick Louisville. So I'm going to go with Miami.
All I'm going to say is that this is a ranked game, but neither of these teams would be ranked if this were a regular college football season.
True.
Both of these teams are 1-0. Both of them struggled for a good 3 quarters against bad mid-majors. So this could be the first ever ranked pillow fight is ultimately what I'm saying. I'm going to say Miami. It's on the road at Louisville, but I mean, what does that even mean this year, right?
Right.
I think Miami has the pieces to win this game, but this could very well be a 6 turnover extravaganza that we could genuinely enjoy to watch. We're going to move on to the NFL. Washington football team, surprisingly at 1-0, leading the NFC East as we all predicted, traveling to the 1-0 Arizona Cardinals, tied for first place in the NFC West, just like we all predicted.
We all thought, right?
Who wins this one?
I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are more of a real deal than Washington. I mean, the Cardinals looked pretty good. They were a improving team through the year last year. You've seen them take another step forward. I like what the Cardinals are doing, and I think they could make some noise. Washington, their logo is a W, so.
So while it's incredibly impressive that football team is 1-0 right now, I think the Cardinals have the better young talent. By the way, the Cardinals we didn't mention Dwayne Hopkins, who started the season 14 catches, 151 yards.
It's a good thing that the Texans got rid of him.
Yeah, right. If you're Kyler Murray, man, what a gift. What an absolute gift in the offseason. I think the Cardinals had the more impressive week 1 win against the better opponent. They're going to be playing at home. Kyler Murray is a lot better quarterback for the future than Dwayne Haskins. So, yeah, I'm going to go Cardinals on that one. New England Patriots 1-0 in the Cam Newton era versus the Seattle Seahawks, who are also 1-0 playing at home. Not that that means anything this season. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Hawks. I'm going to go with the Russell Wilsons.
Yeah, the fighting Russells of Seattle.
This is a little bit of a hard pick, too. I mean, I haven't quite wrapped my head around what the Patriots are going to be. I mean, they played the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But, the Seahawks are a known quantity. They're going to be as good as Russell Wilson is, and Russell Wilson's good, so.
So I will give full credit where it's due. Cam Newton looks healthy. He was able to get a lot of yards on the ground, got a couple of touchdowns. He brings a dynamic to the Patriots offense that hasn't been there in years past. With all of that said, they struggled to win against a Dolphins team with a Ryan Fitzpatrick that just threw 27 interceptions. I don't see Russell Wilson making the back-breaking turnovers that Ryan Fitzpatrick is wont to make, and I don't see a New England defense being able to capitalize on a Russell Wilson-led offense. So I'm actually going to say the Seahawks win easily, and you will see a less than thrilled Bill Belichick.
Did you see the costume that Cam Newton wore during the press conference after the game the other night?
Yes. I was going to get that for you for Halloween.
Oh, I'd look good in that.
I think you would. And finally, it's our first pillow fight of the year. And what a shame that professional sports teams can have a pillow fight.
Yeah, true.
Who in the NFL scheduled this game, Mike Maharrey? Thursday Night Football, Cincinnati Bengals 0-1 at Cleveland Browns 0-1. Nothing says turn off your television like Cincinnati Bengals at Cleveland Browns.
It's a rivalry, man.
I mean, this could very well determine who's going to get number 1 pick. What a headline for week 2. Number 1 pick on the line as Bengals travel to Cleveland. That's the headline that it should have read. But if you have to make a pick, where are you going?
I think I'm going to go Browns. I think the Browns get their first win of the year.
So this is actually a tough one for me. The Bengals are a team that should have won. They should have beaten the Chargers, and they had a chip shot field goal with seconds remaining to win and somehow figured out a way to blow it. So the Bengals should be 1-0. On the other hand, you could say, well, the Cleveland Browns are definitely 0-1, but they were playing the Baltimore Ravens, which may very well be the best team in the NFL. That's yet to be determined, but they're certainly in the running. With that said, I'm kind of with you. As much problem as the Cleveland Browns have, at least they have more veteran leadership on their team than the Bengals. I mean, this is going to be the second week of football for Joe Burrows. And while he wasn't completely irredeemable, he did have a rough week 1. By the way, that's not a knock on him. That's what you expect a rookie quarterback to have in week 1 is a rough
Especially
week.
a rookie quarterback who had no preseason games, no real training camp. I mean,
yeah. So the Bengals managed to lose against a very bad Chargers team. I think the Browns are better than that. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns as well. But either way, if it ends up being a 3-3 tie, that's just a gift for all of us. You have a final thought?
Just that, I really enjoyed having football back. I've enjoyed NHL playoffs. But I tell you what, the relentless politicization of everything is driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And, and just the stupid mask stuff and the stupid, virtue signaling. And like I said, Duke fixing racism by changing their logo on their helmet. All of that stuff is just so stupid. And if you really want to do something about racism, go into a minority neighborhood and make yourself useful and quit pontificating on Facebook and making stupid stuff. It drives me crazy. And I've had more than one person tell me that it is ruining sports for them because everything is, you want to go watch a football game or a hockey game or a baseball game because you want to get away from all that crap.
Yes.
And now it's being constantly thrown in our face. And you have to wonder, I mean, I've talked about the ratings. Is that part of the reason that we're seeing these ratings tank?
Yeah. So we didn't talk about that a lot today because you know what? We avoided a lot of political issues today because, by God, this is a sports show and we're happy to have sports back. So we wanted to talk about sports. I'm not going to.
And then I ruined it.
And then you ruined it. You know what? You might need to come on. It's Too Late and us talk about the NFL's ratings and all the pontificating. That sounds more like a subject for that than
it does.
So you and I will talk about that later. I was just gonna say as my final thought, I'm doing more of the mask angle. Did you see that Troy Vincent of the NFL sent a memo to all 32 teams saying that they were very displeased with a lot of the improper mask usage they saw on the sidelines in week 1? They said that if that doesn't improve in week 2, there will be fines.
Oh.
There will be. I'm just wearing a mask so I don't get fined. That is where we are at in society and in the league. So to piggyback on your statement, sports are an escape for a lot of people. And if you turn your escape into what they're escaping from, then that's how you get a 1/3 drop in viewership of Sunday Night Football year over year. It's ridiculous. I've said it before in my program. I'll say it again. I've always believed in my heart of hearts that the color green is what most of these people cared about the most. And I'm genuinely surprised at how many people are throwing their own financial interest to the wind by alienating fans and teams and players and everyone in between with just the nonsense. Just play football.
Word.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Sports Ball, and we will see you next week.
Love me.
You have been listening to Sports Ball with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley. You can follow us on Facebook and leave comments, suggestions. Just go to @SportsBall Podcast. That's @SportsBall Podcast on Facebook. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.